I mean, this is staple diet stuff for you at Matchroom. You do big fights, but you still must be relatively over the moon being the lead promoter on the performance and the result of this fight. And also, you know, where does it put Shakur now on the pound-for-pound sort of ratings?
Yeah, for sure. Look, it was an amazing event. Obviously, a Ring magazine event, you know, Riyadh season. So great to be working with them. Broke the record as well at MSG, by the way. Highest attendance in the modern day of MSG. Right. It sold out earlier in fight week. You know, and this is what we want to make. We want to make real fights. Shakur is just tremendous. Look, Teofimo's a brilliant fighter, of course. I actually think it's time Teofimo leaves his dad as well. Right. Could 100%. Be. So, you know, because his dad in the corner. Like, his dad's a great character. They're great characters. He can still be a great character in the build-up. But great win for Shakur. 4-weight world champion at, what, 28 years old, 26 years? You know, it's spectacular to see what he's done in his career already. And not even his natural... You know, he's even said 140 is not a weight he really intends to stay at.
Come back down again or go...
Yeah, I think going down, but I think if the fights are there, he'll take the fights. But in his eyes, always before the fight, it was about, I'm going to go and do this, become a 4-weight world champion, and then I can look to go back down again. But, you know, he's a special fighter. He's got so many big nights ahead of him as well. And in the pound-for-pound rankings, you've got to say he's right up there.
Right up there. Well, let's hear what he himself had to say about the fight.
When we saw Conor Benn in the ring with you and the idea of you two fighting, for British fans, it would come as a bit of a curveball. You now have 4 different weight world titles and Conor's not boxed for a world title yet. What's going on between you two? Why is that a fight that you like?
I'm into big fights. I like big fights. I like big money fights. I like proving that I'm the best, and I like doing things that people say I can't do. There's a lot of people that will say that I'm too little for Conor Benn, and I can't do it. So it makes for a tremendous fight.
And Eddie mentioned that there's quite a few that DMs go back and forth between you two. Is it all amicable? Is there a bit of aggro going on?
It's gonna be a good beef. I like the beef. I like the story behind it, and it's a tremendous fight.
I was just talking to Kalasal earlier on a different show, talking about Josh Kelly and where he might go next and Conor Benn, but he's brought Conor Benn into the equation in this conversation. Let's cut through the nonsense. We're not going to see Conor Benn fighting Shakur Stevenson, are we, really?
Anything's possible. I mean, how can you... Any fight... There's so many fights we've said over the years, we're not going to see that. We're not going to see that one happen. Originally, Eubank Benn. Who would have said all those years ago Conor Benn would fight Chris Eubank Jr.? It happened twice. Look, I don't think it's the favourite fight right now. I think, you know, Conor wants to win a 147 world title. He's got Rolly Romero opportunity that we're working on. He's got the Ryan Garcia against Barrios winner. Yeah. He's mandatory for the WBC world title. He's always wanted to win that WBC belt. But look, if Shakur wants it, look at the position Conor Benn's in, though. He's got Shakur Stevenson, a 4-weight champion of the world, calling him out. You know, and that's what Conor does.
Yeah, I mean, interesting, both your fighters. But in terms of Shakur Stevenson, he signed a 5-fight deal with you guys, did he?
Yeah, around that, yeah.
How many's he got left with you?
I think that was towards the end, but we're working on and looking at what the opportunities next are in terms of fights.
Devin Haney in the mix?
For sure. Look, Devin Haney has done amazing things as well in the sport. We worked with him since, you know, when he was 18, 19 years old. You know, that's a great fight. There's so many fights in that mix now, in that grouping, that can be made. You know, that's definitely one there. You know, but Shakur called Conor into the ring. That's a fight Shakur
I saw that.
Interesting.
I mean, people having a pop at Conor, but it wasn't him that was, you know, it was ultimately Shakur Stevenson that called him into the ring. I mean, when this sort of WWE promotion, I mean, obviously, sort of Conor was dialing in his best Dennis Rodman look on the weekend. I mean, is this a successful strategy for Conor to be representing himself in that way? Because we're seeing a lot of these sort of confected confrontations with Conor at the centre of it. It wasn't a confected one between him and Duke. It was unpleasant to Duke. That's a different discussion. But is this a successful strategy on a way to work Conor up as a marketable asset?
Everyone's talking about it.
Yeah. We're
here talking about it now, aren't we? Yeah. You know, look, Conor gets people talking, and that's what he does. And he'll continue to do that, and he'll get the big fights. You know, he's always been great. And he delivers in the fights as well. He delivers entertainment. So, you know, from all angles, he's delivering. So I think he's doing a great job with it. I love the haircut myself. I was going to try it myself, but I'm losing it a bit too much too quickly.
You look like Eminem's grandfather, right? When you see Conor up there, and I'm not having a pop at Conor, but I'm just curating it in this way. When you see Conor up in the ring with Usyk and Beterbiev and Triple G, I mean, these are established world champions with credibility and cachet. Do you not think it's a little bit because with due respect, I don't care what Frank says, he's gone in against Chris Eubank. I didn't have either one of those fights. I know I'm a miserable and I should have paid attention to the first fight and I should have been there and it wasn't just a brawl in a Witherspoon's pub. But the second fight was what it was, right? Conor hasn't done anything besides beat a sort of wrung out Chris Eubank. you know, and it's got a lot of noise and a lot of currency because of the background, the story, the notoriety. I want him to do well. I like him as a boy, but let's have it right. He hasn't actually done anything.
Yeah, well, look, when you look at resumes, of course he doesn't have the right to be in there when you look at these guys who will probably go down as all-time greats, you know, so their achievements have been quite phenomenal. But Conor Benn, you know, he's great on social media, he's a self-publicist, and he's doing a great job. He's putting himself in that picture. And you go, off the back of the 2 Chris Eubank Jr. victories, he's being talked about. You know, he's called out everybody and anybody. You know, he's looking for those big fights. I agree with Frank. He should be down at 147 and establishing himself down there, winning a world title from down there.
Hold on, you told me that he couldn't make that weight anymore.
No, but that's where he needs to go, because that's what he said he can make that. Doesn't matter what I say. I said that, no, I didn't say that he couldn't make the weight. I said, I don't think he'll be strong at that weight. I don't think he'll be effective at that weight. And I don't think he'll win a world title at that weight. That's a different conversation. But he wants to go down there. He's got a team around him that feel comfortable that he can do that. If they feel that he can do that and he can carry that strength, then it's a different conversation. But from where I'm sitting, I think his days should be at 154.
Yes, so do
and,
I.
you know, and I think the fight with Josh Kelly is a fight that I would favour.
I mean, where were you on the Conor Benn, I say, phenomenon right now? I mean, is he a stadium filler? Are you buying into this allure that Conor has, or seemingly has?
I think Frank's the best person to ask, is he a stadium filler? I don't know. Eubank Ben's a stadium filler.
But you get a whiff of it, you know what it looks like. You've
No,
been around this game long enough.
I know what it looks like. This is the thing with Conor Benn. I personally would be embarrassed being in that ring with them great champions next, because I never won a world title. But he isn't trying to be. He's being asked to be in there. He's being told, get in the ring. He's just sold out Tottenham Hotspur's stadium twice with Chris Eubank. So whether we like it, you like it, anyone likes it or not, he's there. He's made bucket loads of money, and he's the name on everyone's lips at the moment because he's just beat Chris Eubank, who was a good fighter. But Chris himself hadn't won them world titles, and there is levels to boxing. Obviously, there's levels that we all strive to try and get to, and that's the very top level. But he's there now because of the publicity, the name, and the fact that he delivered in them fights, because he did deliver. Listen, it voted Fight of the Year, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first fight of the year.
That's an unbelievable stat and to have. So on the back of that, of course, you're going to try and cash in and strike while the iron's hot, and he's never been hotter now. So if he's ever going to get these fights, whether it be Crocker, whether it be Josh Kelly, whether it be Barrios or whatever, it's now. Otherwise, he might miss the boat.
But that's one part of the question. That's getting fights against people that you can win world titles against. The question was about stadium filling. So I'll put it back to you, Frank. I mean, on his own, without the backstory, without all of the iconography of Ben Eubank and all that was built up out of that fight, are you optimistic, and do you think that he sells out stadiums on his own?
I think in the right fights, and I think that for 99.9% of fighters. You know, a lot of fights you wouldn't take to stadiums, whether it was the biggest stars in the sport. You know, if it was AJ in a comeback fight, as an example, one of the biggest names in UK boxing of the last 10, 15 years, there's certain fights we took to the O2 Arena because they made more sense there. I think Conor Benn against Ryan Garcia sells out a stadium in minutes.
I think Conor Benn versus Shakur Stevenson sells out a stadium.
Conor Benn, Devin Haney, another one.
What about Conor Benn versus Josh Kelly? I think that sells out a stadium. That sells out Sunderland.
Definitely sells out Sunderland, doesn't it?
For sure.
But then I think there's fights like Conor Benn, Rolly Romero. I think we should be in an arena. You know, in truth.
Well, let's hear from Conor himself.
Ultimately, I'm here in his city, but if he wants it, he can get it. I mean, he's calling for it, so no problem. Let's do it in the stadium back home. We'll do that next. That'll be my first fight back at 147. No warm-up. That sausage roll, he can get it as well.
Out of curiosity, obviously His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh had you up in the ring. You would have had conversations with him this week. What has that been regarding? What do we expect to see next?
Let's just say, I ain't short of options. Any of them can get it, any day of the week. The Brits are coming to take over. Very
good, Conor. What's the plan for him this year? I mean, what is the direction of travel? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Conor. I liked him 2 or 3 years ago before all the furore blew up about the drugs tests. I wanted him to fight at 147. I didn't want him to fight Eubank because I felt he could win a world title at 147, and I felt it should be about that rather than what I consider to be fights using other people's imagery. But that's all gone now, and we are where we are, and he's now made himself a bankable star and a whole raft of opportunities. So what is 2026 looking like for him? Where are you positioning him? Where do you want to take him?
Like you say, we want him to win a world title. His team believe he can make 147 safely. That's the key. Ultimately, they're going to be the ones driving that decision. So 147 has always been the focus. He's spoken a lot about winning the WBC world title. Obviously, that's taking place between Ryan Garcia and Mario Barrios on February 21st. He is the mandatory. We know with Ryan Garcia, sometimes he can go off radar, so we're not looking at just that option. We are looking at the Rolly Romero fight for the WBA world title as well. I think that's very likely. I think that's a very likely fight. I think by the end of the year, you could see him in unification fights in the welterweight division. I do believe in May, June, we'll look to make that Romero fight. And then you've obviously got Crocker is fighting Liam Parrow as a mandatory. That's a unification as well. Conor Benn against Crocker, if they both come through those first fights towards the end of this year. There's big fights to be made. And he's, like he said there, he's the name on everyone's lips. He's really got the choice of everything he wants because of where he's put himself.
If he gets down to a weight where he doesn't feel comfortable, he's trying to make that 147 and he has to take a different route, a different option, does then Josh Kelly come into that conversation? Because
huge
obviously,
fight.
It's a huge fight over here.
Huge
for the fans.
fight. Yeah, look, that's been a fight in the past that had been spoken about. I think, like I say, where he's so focused on 147, if we said now fight for the 154 world title, I don't think that would be... He'd like to fight for the 147 world titles, become a world champion there, and then move to 154. Otherwise, I think it's very difficult to do it the other way round. If he has his next fight at 154, he's never really going to fight at 147 again.
I think it's going to be very hard for him to get to 147 anyway after spent it so long at 160.
That was my point.
He's not exactly, getting younger, and I'm not saying he's old by the way, but it will be difficult. We've seen it time and again in the past.
Look, they're led by science, though. Ultimately, he has a brilliant team around him who, know what they're doing within that space a lot more than I do. And they've reviewed everything. They believe he can safely make the weight. It's not going to be easy, as we know.
I think it was not the fact that he jumped up a couple of weight divisions to 160. It was the fact that he stayed there and had that fight again. And your body, when it adjusts and trying to bring it back down. Roy Jones is that great example of, going up to heavyweight, staying there. And he was never the same fighter when he come back down. It was a similar sort of scenario. And I go, that was my concern for Conor. You drop down, you can make the weight, for sure. But then what sort of fighter are you at that weight? When the punch resistance goes because you've drained your body down too much. So that is the concern for him down at 1-4. That's why I think, 154 is the weight division that he should be campaigning.
Were you surprised? Are you surprised that he's elected to go back down to 147? Did you think in your mind's eye, as a management team around him, I know he makes his own mind up, he's a man of his own mind, were you surprised that he elected to go back down to 147? Did you think after fighting Eubank twice at 160 that he might, and having fought at 154 a couple of times leading up to the Eubank fight, that might be the preferred destination, besides Boots Ennis being in that division, of course?
Not really, no, because he's always maintained it. He's always said throughout, I want to win a world title at 147. He's never throughout the period gone, actually, do you know what, maybe I'll come back at 154. It's always been what's been in his mind. He's not a big guy. I think naturally, he's 147 works for him. But, as you say, spending so much time at that weight, there's only one way to find out.
The way I look at it, Frank, sorry to interrupt you, the way I look at it is he's going to take the opportunity what's best for him, whatever weight it's going to be at. And I don't think, you can have all the intentions of being at 147, that opportunity might come at 154. It might, whatever the opportunity is best for him, I think he'll try his best to take. Ideal world, he'd like to get back down there, but
I think most of the fights are there. Like when you look at them now, Shakur calling him out wouldn't be at anything above 147. And then you've obviously got the Rolly Romero WBA fight. You've got the WBC mandatory, which he's been ordered for. There are fights at 154, but I think the biggest fights right now are there for him, and he's going to do everything he can to make those fights happen.